So you and I were talking the other day that it's pretty common for one spouse to handle the finances. I was hoping maybe you could start us out by sharing what some of the biggest risks are when only one person is managing everything.
Sure. Obviously it's not uncommon for one spouse to handle a particular task, or divide up their tasks based on interest, comfort level, knowledge, whatever the case may be. It's also certainly more efficient for one person to do something than versus, two people attempting to do the same task. So, that's no different when it comes to financial tasks. It's just that when one person in particular handles the vast majority of those tasks, you run the risk that if something happens to them, that other spouse is kind of left in the dark. And so, if that's taking out the trash, okay, you can probably figure that out. But if it's, your entire financial picture, that's a little bit harder to piece together. So that's where it's really important to make sure that even what I would say is the quote non-CFO in the household, it's just important that they at least have a general understanding of what those various tasks and what the financial situation is overall. And, certainly in my, over 15 years of experience and research shows this too, when it comes to these various financial tasks, more often than not, they're handled by the male in the relationship. That's not always the case. It's not even the case in my own household. It's probably not too surprising that I handle that in my house since that's what I do for a living. But, there are a lot of people, especially in the baby boomer generation, where it's the male handling those tasks, especially when it comes to investments, retirement planning. And you couple this with the fact that women tend to outlive men by 5 to 7 years, and that presents an issue, especially if it's the male who's been handling the vast majority of those financial tasks.
Well, and I see all the time statistics related to women and longevity, as well as financial literacy. Are there any key numbers that you feel like really stick out? And maybe you can go a little into why it's so crucial for women to be prepared financially, especially before a tragedy occurs.
Oh, absolutely. The fact that women do tend to outlive men by that 5 to 7 year mark, you couple this with the fact that women also tend to marry older men, which just, exacerbates that issue. Another, interesting call out is that, the divorce rate is very high. So divorce is very prevalent. And gray divorce, which is defined by divorce happening in those who are age 50 or older, has become extremely prevalent. In fact, I think it accounts for almost 40% of overall divorces now. So all of that leads to the stat that about 85% of women will handle their own finances at some point in their lives. Okay, so it is almost inevitable that women are going to be taking care of this at some point, whether they're choosing to or are forced to based on a tragedy. And so obviously, if you can get a good handle on it before that tragedy happens, that's, of course, the more ideal situation. So trying to grieve after the loss of a husband or after a divorce, and trying to piece together your financial situation at the same time, that's less than ideal. So, that just really shows all the reasons for getting your grasp on what those various pieces are ahead of time. And, there are some factors that tend to hit women more so than men. So the fact that we live longer also means we end up having greater healthcare costs. Often women take a break in their careers for caregiving, or some have only worked inside the home. So that can lead to less retirement savings. Obviously, that also has an impact on Social Security. A lot of women also are more conservative with their investments. So all of these kind of, position them with some headwind. And so again, just reiterates the importance of making sure that they have a good handle on their financial situations as early as possible.